official commission meeting?
This is an official commission meeting, so it is 6:08, and I will call the commission meeting to order. Those present that are in the commission are Carol Mylander, Jen Hicks, Brant Troop, and myself. Advisory board members Milton Murray and Hope Project. So that's the gist of it. I will ask the commission members if they reviewed the minutes from last week and they have any changes or notes, and we'll submit those to the town after that. That's the easy part of the day. What I'd like to do is, at the last mayor and council meeting, I was fortunate enough to read off some of what we did last year as an annual report for those that weren't here for that. I'll do a really abbreviated. Thanks, Steve.
Do you want these handed in?
No, that's just for us.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to make copies. I'll do a real quick rundown of what we did last year, so you guys are on par with where we are with that. And then what I'd like to do is take a few minutes to let you know where some of the things that we'd like to do in the next year are, and update you as far as what we know is where the town's plans for some of the facilities in the town for the next couple of years are. And then take suggestions from you guys about what you would like to see us do and where your hopes and dreams are. I'm hoping we'll fill in a little bit as we go. We do have James here recording, so this will, since Mayor and Council couldn't be here, they had another engagement, so they can hear what we want to talk about, and so that other folks that might want to get involved can hear your ideas. Real quick, year in review last year. After forming at a sort of semi-informal level in 2012, official Recreation Commission was approved by the Mayor and Council in May with 7 members, myself, Nivek Johnson, Sally Harding, Jen Hicks, Brant Troop, Tim O'Brien, and Karen Saunders. Program we did last year, we did movies in the park. May through October, we showed 8 movies with varying attendance anywhere from 20 to 100. We hope to bring that program back again this year. Last year we showed movies primarily at the foot of High Street at the Custom House, but we also showed movies in Washington Park and in Fountain Park. The Rec Commission participated in the DCA's 4th of July celebration. In August, we started meetings with residents of Washington Park area and submitted a $174,000 grant to Maryland Parks and Playgrounds to build a small facility in Washington Park, which would include a small pavilion, a small children play area, and a redeveloped half-court basketball court and handicap parking, and a walking track around all of it. Those of you that don't know, the town owns a piece of land in Washington Park that has been sort of dormant for many, many years, and we, as a commission, we sort of decided to look where we already had land that was going to impact neighbors, and this was the first piece of land we voted on to work on. We did that through working with the residents to come up with the ideas of what they wanted, and would like to be our MO for doing future parks, is to start with what we think the neighbors and the people in the town want, and then build from there. And if I'm talking too fast, just slow me down. I tend to race. In September through October, we ran a 6-week bocce league. Had anywhere between 50 and 70 participants in a weekly adult recreational league that played at Wilmer Park. In October, we produced a pumpkin patch day event for pumpkin decorating and other. It's just a festive fall day that we did the weekend before Halloween. And December through ongoing right now, we've been hosting family game night at the Kent County Public Library Yellow Building, inviting families and adults to come out and hang out and play board games or play whatever games we can muster. That's the quick rundown of what we did last year. Where we are looking for this year. And again, I covered a lot of this at the town meeting last week, but for your benefit. Projects proposed for 2014. The completion of phase 3 of the Rails to Trails will happen in the next few months. That's clearing out shortly. Pending the grant, we'd like to design and work on the construction of the Washington Park project. That is scheduled to shake down sometime, I think, May. Is that right, Case? Is that when we get that, it's about when we get that, that's when we get the notification of that award, and so then we'd go forward from there if we get that award. We'd like to bring back movie night this year. We'd like to bring it up to 10 films and sort of compress the overall calendar so it's twice monthly instead of once a month. We found that last year going once a month, it's tough with rainouts if people miss it, they just miss the whole month and they forget that it's happening. The Bocce League would like to expand and go spring and fall, and pending enough registration, we may even go to 2 nights. We've had suggestions to do other adult co-ed leagues, including a wiffle ball league or a kickball league or other adult co-ed leagues as interest merits. We'd also like to expand our family festival events to become quarterly. Take an event like the Pumpkin Fest and do it once a season, winter, spring, summer, and fall, day in the park or day event that we'd like to do. Those are some of the programming ideas we've sort of muscled together for ideas. Additionally, we have some ideas about facilities we'd like to get into. I can tell you that as of right now, so the status update on where we are with some other parks. Bailey Park currently has a dog park, which is very nearly completed with all the trees and the benches going in by the end of the spring. We've had several requests to do other things there, and those are all under consideration right now. Some of the things we've had suggested to go there are Pop Warner football and soccer. That would mean expanding the parking area and the access, and that's a consideration that we're not by no means guaranteeing, but that's something that we've been asked to explore, and we're taking feedback on that. Gateway Park is going through the final stretches with clearing through State Highway and other and through the county and some of the environmental issues there. Those new designs will be available shortly. Is that right, Case?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys, if anyone wants to see those or see what that looks like, we encourage you to reach out to the town. I can show you a preliminary of it, but it's not guaranteed what it's going to look like because again, a lot of those issues are changing based on what the highway department and what the county are requiring of us for both environmental and public safety issues. As of right now, Gateway Park has changed a little since it was first proposed as a grant. There have been some changes, some basic changes to the layout of the design, but essentially the two biggest changes are that originally there was supposed to be a bridge that connected the phase 3 of the rail trail over to Gateway. And because of the crossings of Radcliffe Creek, that's now gone away, and the crossing is now comes out to Route 20 and comes back around on a sidewalk that, again, pending approval from State Highway, will connect into the other side of that. And the other part is that the basketball court has been moved towards the back end of the park. And so the park now winds down to an overlook that ends at the end of the trail, and there's a basketball court back there that is fenced. And other details than that have sort of been ongoingly changing, so we don't want to comment too much on it, but the town will gladly let you guys know where that sits, and we can take into some consideration about that. Another project that we are looking to incorporate is we're in the preliminary stages of getting permission to possibly build a baseball field at the middle school. For the last 20 years, Chestertown has not had an active youth baseball field. It's the only town in the county that doesn't have its own dedicated field. Rockhall has 3, Betterton has 1, Millington has a couple, and Glean has a couple, but Chestertown has 0 baseball fields. Next week I go to the Board of Education and talk to them about that, but that's sort of a preliminary plan for where we'd like to, that's the next build that we'd like to do that. And we're doing that with limited grant funds. We're looking to do that. It's proposed that we do a lot of private fundraising for that, so it doesn't become a burden on the town. But we are looking for the town and the county to contribute to that, and that's a project that we're trying to get into as far as where we end up. I guess, and then the other big project that we'll be working on this week, especially with Jen Hicks's help, is that we're going to have a recreation comprehensive plan that we hope to have ready to be completed as an addendum to the town's new comp plan that will be voted on in the fall. We're hoping to have enough components of that that'll be voted on as a working addendum that falls into that. Right now, the comp plan has some specific wordage and paragraphs about the existing facilities. We'd like to really add to that and make it a full comprehensive view of the town's land, what we should be acquiring, what we could be acquiring, how it will impact the neighbors, and where we want to see it go as a long-term plan. It's not as a one-year fix or a patch, but as this is what we want to see in 5 years, this is what we see in 10 years, this is what the town should look like in 20 years, and the facilities should be growing along with those. And that's something we're going to be actively looking for more feedback on as we go down the line. Did I miss anything, guys? That's the nuts and bolts, I think, is where we are right now.
And then we meet monthly.
Oh yeah, we'll be meeting monthly, first Tuesday of the month. I think the exception of that is there's one Tuesday where it's actually the first, so we'll probably skip that one and meet on the first available one. I forget what month that is. I think it's May or June, where it's the first Tuesday in a full week of Tuesdays. So we'll be meeting here every Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month. So we chose that to try to spread things out because it seems like everybody else was eating on Monday nights. I think that's the fast version. So I will start out by asking, are there any specific questions about any of the town's current projects that we can answer or that we can facilitate answers to that you guys have? What I'd like to do is take a few minutes to field questions. Then we'll go facility by facility, where you can have some comments on each facility. And then we'll take open comment for any programming that you guys would like to see added. And I think, there's not a ton of us, so I think we can do that relatively quickly. And before we leave, we will pass around a thing, if you, a notebook, sign-in sheet. If anyone you'd like to be on our email list or just keep track of what ideas are coming on, or if you'd like to become more involved. We're a really dedicated little committee, but the more bodies and the more voices we get, the better the possibilities of this becoming a reality and becoming a better project for the town are. So, so any general questions about recreation in town? Hope.
Well, I have a couple of questions. One is, do you plan to write a grant for this year for Parks and Recreation? And I guess there were a couple of other ideas regarding what that grant could be for that I didn't hear you mention.
Right.
So.
I would suppose that we would try to put another grant for this year. We put the town of Chestertown has put one in for the last 4 years, Case? Consistently? 4 or 5, the Parks and Playground grant? We've turned one in for
2.
2 of the last.
Remembrance Park
and Gateway.
Okay.
Right, and then Washington Parks. That's 3 of the last 4. So, and we've been fairly, I don't know if lucky is the right word, but we've been blessed that we've received those grants so far. So yes, I would like to consider we put in for another grant, and we'll be looking for other grant opportunities. As far as the baseball field goes, there are grant opportunities that are specific to that kind of facility. We'll be exploring those as well. That grant isn't due until August. The Parks and Playground grant, so we have ample time to sort of assess and gather public opinion about what our next project should be. So yes, and you had another follow-up?
Oh, just other ideas that you didn't mention of development, but maybe you're going to go over that when you go over each facility? I don't know.
Well, if you have a question, let's better just ask it.
It's not really a question.
Okay.
I mean, the development of Garnet Playground is one topic.
Right.
Building up the tennis courts, that was another thing that was mentioned.
Okay. Some of what she's asking about, for those of you who don't know, the Garnet Playground was a amazing playground built by Leathers & Associates in 1992. After 20 years of service, it reached a point where the county decided that it was a better solution to tear it down and put in a new facility than it was to repair it. In large part, this is because after 20 years, the town hadn't really done much active in maintenance on it other than what the county did. And I think they saw it as a better opportunity to have a facility that they knew the ins and outs of, and it wouldn't cost them trouble in the next 30 years. So there's been a lot of hullabaloo and question about why did that go away. It was an awesome place. Can we rebuild it? Also, there are tennis courts at the middle school that, by the same exact token, from lack of interest and lack of use, have fallen into significant disrepair. Both of which require a working agreement with the county school board because it's their land. And one of the things that we're looking to do specifically with this ball field project is to rebuild the connection between the town and the county and build a partnership again. A baseball field is significantly less maintenance than any of those others, and it's significantly less cost, but it shows nice. And when it's well maintained, and the people that I know that are baseball guys that want to use it are fanatical about its upkeep, it will build we're hoping that it'll build a bridge between what the town hopes to do recreation-wise and working again with the county. There were a lot of things that used to just sort of happen in Chestertown and Kent County at the school board, and with the school board, they just happened because we had a lot of active parents, and I think we cycled through a generation of active parents that were involved. A lot of those kids aged out. I know that I was a part of the generation that built the first playground, and those kids all aged through, so the next cycle of parents that came to town or that were there weren't engaged and kept involved. And that's one of the things we are looking to do with looking at these facilities, is find ways for new families and new residents and new parents to become re-engaged and become an active part of them. So before we talk about rebuilding the Garnett playground, or before we talk about rebuilding the tennis courts, we're trying to take one step at a time. And right now, and again, this is all proposed, but right now the proposal to try to start that would be doing the ball fields. So there you go. Yes?
I just have a question about the playground and the tennis courts. I wasn't aware that those were available for public use. I thought they belonged to the school.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered if now that I know that they are, is there any possible way of putting signage so that people know that those are Chestertown?
Well, I can tell you that they're only available for public use after school hours.
Okay.
But when I go to the school board next week to talk about this other program, I will definitely address the fact that, you know, if the school board is allowing them, when is it available, and would they be willing to put up signs to let people know that? So
I
it's
routinely take my children out of town.
right.
To Churchill or to Centerville that have these great, public parks that look like public places to go. I haven't taken them to the school
Right.
property because
it looks like school property.
was
Right.
something that I was allowed to do.
Garnett, well, first of all, you should know that the tennis courts at the middle school aren't tennis courts anymore. They're just the green top. There's no nets or anything like there. Because they're public schools, you have access after school, and I don't think anyone will run you off. In contrast to the two private schools that we have in town, which is Radcliffe and Chestertown Baptist, which people are at there. That truly is private land. But I will, when I speak to the school board next week, I'll definitely bring that up and ask if they can make that clear so that friends and neighbors know that. Great.
I want to add to that. I worked a little bit to try to get the rebuilding process going, and there's a lot of complications to that spot. It's actually a wonderful place to have a playground because it's literally right in the middle of town. It's accessible. It's a lot of space for towns of this size. But there's, I think, and the leadership has changed since I started working. I had started working on that playground development. But the leadership at that time were very wary of opening the doors up to the public. But they never said no. People can't use it. It was just, I got the sense that they didn't want to encourage outside use, although you could use it. It was this kind of nebulous thing. I don't know if that's the case now. I'd be
Yeah.
interested to see what kind of feedback
Yeah.
you get regarding that.
We have a new super and a new board, and as I said, one of our real goals is to try to restrain that board. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Aaron Anderson.
Thank you, Aaron.
And I think it's important, in my opinion, my understanding of one of the roles of this commission is to be a depository of this kind of information. I mean, I think the sentiment has been there, has been around. As a parent, I hear it as well, that there's just not enough recreation opportunities. The commission conducted a survey that confirmed that there's not enough recreation opportunities both for children, but mostly a lot of people felt that the children were definitely were not being served. Certainly recreation for everybody. And that was probably one of the first formal gathering of information that this town has done around recreation in a long time. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities. And now the committee's, I think, role as well is to prioritize what comes first, what gets the oil first, and which wheel's the squeakiest. And so I think we're still coming up with criteria. You know, I think one of the biggest criteria is what's the most feasible at this moment, so that we have at least visual progress being made around recreation. The baseball field probably is one of them, because we have the momentum. We have people who are very enthused by the idea of building a baseball field. I think we could get that and more with a playground. The trapping with the playground is, again, what is that space? Is that the school space? Is that the public space? And if that's not where a public or a community playground can be built, where should it be built? And that is where, personally, I've struggled, and I think our committee really hasn't come up with any conclusion on good locations. And it may be that there's just lots of small playgrounds around town, but clearly we all agree, I think there's a lot of agreement that playground will probably be next on the docket because of the need. Right,
and again, like Jen says, because of the history with the town and the county, and the lack of formal organization, it's going to be a slow road to hoe, because it's just, there's a lot of the animosity is not the correct word, and distrust isn't the right word either, but there is a separation, and we want to work to try to bring that separation back again, to bring those two groups together. So yeah, playgrounds is a huge priority for us. They are however pretty expensive, so we need to make sure that we can, like Jen says, start with some actualizable goals. Last year, recreation cost the town almost nothing. A couple of grand for movies and some t-shirts. And we built a lot of small victories and momentum, and now you guys are here because you've heard about it. And other people are talking about it. People stop us in the street and want to talk about it. And so this next year, 2014, is about us taking that next step. Not taking a huge leap, but taking a medium leap. I have found over the course of time that giant victories are daunting. But a series of small ones makes a medium-sized hill much smaller, and a mountain even smaller than that. So yeah, other questions? General questions? Yes, sir. Your name?
Yeah, Tim Cole.
Thanks, Tim.
Could you expound a little bit on what you're doing in Washington Park?
Sure. Right now, we are doing nothing in Washington Park because we're waiting on a grant. The grant process there gets submitted in August and comes out in the spring. So we sort of let that sit still for right now until we find out if we have that money.
And what would you plan to do with it if you get the money?
The grant proposal, as submitted, has 4 functions to add to a piece of land that's on Jefferson Road. It's a large piece of land that was formerly occupied by a swimming pool that was a private entity when Washington Park was first built, was turned over to the county, and then ultimately turned over to the town. The project as designed, and I would be glad if anyone writes down an email, I'm glad to show you with the design. I didn't bring it today, and I should have. Is and it's hard to imagine unless you know the piece of land, but it's a if you look on the map, Case, can you point to where Washington Park is?
It's actually off the map.
Is it? Okay. It's over there. It's a big basin. We have plans to build a walking trail around the basin for seniors and for handicap accessibility. From left to right in the park, we have a small children's playground equipment. Nothing, I think the size of the equipment is about 20 by 20. So it's not huge, but it's small enough for ages 7 and under appropriate. And then center playground, center of the area, we have a 20 by 20 wooden pavilion to be built. with a cement base and just for picnics and families that want to have family events there. And then to the far right, we're going to re-blacktop a half-court basketball court. Currently in Washington Park, there is an existing half-court basketball court. It's fairly dilapidated and located directly adjacent to a town water pump, which has barbed wire around it. So if the ball goes wild and goes into the pump, it's basically lost unless you want to try to climb barbed wire. So the water pump cannot move. So the plan was to push the basketball court back about 50 feet and face it the other direction, and then use that existing basketball court as a handicap landing pad. It's about big enough for about 2 cars. So it's not meant for people to come in from outside of Washington Park or people to come in from all over to fill in and use this playground. The Washington Park.
There's a walk around.
Yeah. The Washington.
What's going at the bottom of Flatland Road?
Well, we haven't gotten to that yet.
It's a different, that's a different.
We'll get into that in just a second. When we went to the folks at Washington Park, some of their major concerns were the fact that we're worried a lot of outsiders would come in and use their park. It was designed to be relatively small and be neighborhood use. We had talked to some folks about possibly connecting Coventry, and we weren't sure if both neighborhoods were ready for that. We didn't get enough response and positivity from both neighborhoods that they wanted a path to go between them. I think once that park is built, then you broach that, and that's not out of the realm of possibility. But I think you make sure that people like the idea of it before you connect the neighborhoods. My personal inclination would be that would be fantastic, but whether the land is available and clear, I don't know if that's a possibility. But again, all of that planning is on hold until we know whether we get the grant, and that happens in the early spring.
So at this point, there is no concrete plan to connect Washington Park and Coventry Farms with this facility? No. It
was suggested and did not meet with resistance, but did not come with enthusiasm either. So we said we would table that, and we would see sort of how the park developed and see what the neighbors would think of after the fact. It's certainly accessible to the folks at Coventry by coming around and in, but it's around and in, so it's not really built for them. One of the big issues of Coventry is that the land, and as you well know, the land in Coventry, there's a giant piece of land there that is privately held, that is run by the Coventry HOA, a homeowners association. And so some people have suggested, why wouldn't you just build it there? It's a big piece of land. It's because that's not town land. The reason that we looked at this specific piece of land in Washington Park is because it is already maintained by the town. So with all things, sometimes the path of least resistance, makes it so you can actually get something done. I've had people in Coventry ask me to look into what we could do with that piece of land, and that's going into the HOA, and that's a whole different project for down the road. So, yeah, I know.
Okay. Can I make a comment about that?
Yeah.
Because I live in Coventry.
Yeah.
And have been at the HOA meeting where that has been discussed, and the people that purchased their houses and perhaps paid a little bit more to have the open space are very against having something to look at, since they wanted the open space.
Right. And
no support.
Right. But I want to make it clear to anyone who's not there and not in Coventry that that's one of the reasons that we have not tried to pursue that piece of land, because there are significant roadblocks to it that are just because the people who live there that actually have more say there than the town does.
Well, if it is in fact town land that you are thinking about that surrounds Washington Park, I find it a little strange that Coventry is not being considered to tie into that, because Coventry backs up to that.
It does, and again, the difference, Mr. Cole, is that the land that would connect to it is privately held. So we would have to come.
There is right-of-ways in the Coventry Farms.
And again, that's
to these places.
That is something that when we had the meetings about Washington, and you were there.
I was there.
I think you and Brent were the only representatives from Coventry that came out, and we asked for anybody from anywhere on the Third Ward to come out.
And honestly, I was a little turned off when they said they didn't want any outsiders.
Right, and again, not unlike what I mentioned before about building the bridges with the town and the school board. That's a bridge that's going to need to be built. And I think once the facility, if the facility happens, then we start building those bridges up. That's my goal there.
Moving maybe a little further aside, what's the rail trail connection? I've heard little mumblings around that the rail trail could get up there and tie these two communities into the rail trail. What is happening there?
As of right now, I can tell you that the rail trail, the only phase on the books right now for the rail trail for the next 6 months is phase 3, which runs behind from Lynchburg Street up to the back of Route 20 near the bypass. Phase 4, which is the phase that runs from the other side of Morgan Neck Road bypass into Foxy Manor.
It's this section right here.
Right. Is the next section that is currently on the books. After that, the rail trail, I think, has 6 or 7 phases, right? 5 or 6 phases?
The 4 phases, so phase 3 is right here. That's the phase that's currently paid for and will commence in the spring. Phase 4, which is here, cannot commence until the MTA finishes some stormwater work in that valley. And then the subsequent phases are simply creating connections for cyclists trying to get down Morgan Neck Road, up through town, so they're more sort of striping and creating bike lane types of things.
I would bring out the subject that if you live in Washington Park, you live in Coventry, the flatland corridor, so to speak, there is no way safely to get out of that into other parts of the town unless you have a car. It is not safe to walk on flatland. And I would think that the rail trail would be a very good possibility and should probably be given some priority after these several are already planned. Again, Coventry already has the right-of-way to it.
Okay.
It's already on the books. So I would certainly propose that something like that would be done. There is no seniors up there, have no place to walk. Families with young children have no place to walk up there that is safe.
Okay, thank you. And again, what we're telling you is what's planned.
Yep.
What we're taking from you is ideas to take back and reapply. So if I'm telling you that,
They need to get on the books.
if I'm telling you that only we have is 3 and 4, I'm not telling you it's not a possibility. I'm telling you it's not currently planned.
That's
I want to make sure it doesn't.
Into the discussion.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I want to make sure that it doesn't sound like I'm not telling you can't. Okay.
And I wanted the discussion.
Yeah.
It's on record.
Question for
Yeah.
There's a HOA meeting coming up February.
I'm here as a private citizen, not as an HOA member.
Because you're part of the HOA there, would you be willing to have us come and speak there?
I would be, but I have to talk to the other board members.
Would you get back to me?
I can get back to you.
That's all. You're a private citizen. We're not. But as long as we're having a dialogue, if you put me on the books and you let me know, that'd be awesome. Or bring Brandon, would be awesome. Thank you. Other general questions about recreation or parks or facilities in town before we get into specifics about each?
Question about
This is general. This is in general. Anything specific, and then we'll go facility by facility after that.
You're gonna bring up Bailey Park?
We're gonna go every single facility in a row. This is just in any sort of general information questions. Yes, sir.
Okay, the softball diamonds that are currently in all the other municipalities, are they county-owned and maintained? I don't expect you to have that answer.
No, I can now. The baseball diamonds in other towns there's a mixed bag. In Wharton, they're owned by the county. Galena, is it Fullfield, was it?
Toll Park
Toll Park is a county
county
field.
park.
So those are the county fields. Other parks are run by civic organizations, except for Rock Hall, which those are partially maintained by the town.
Their softball diamonds are maintained by
The baseball diamonds.
baseball diamonds?
I don't think there's softball diamonds anywhere. I don't think there's anything big enough for
Okay.
softball except for Wharton. I think that's right. And you can correct me on that, but as far as I know, that's the only place that they're big enough.
I'm looking at long-term at both in aiding in the construction and aiding in the maintenance and financing. If the county has done this for the other municipalities, they should be stepping up for Chestertown.
And I can get into this when we talk about that proposal. The proposal we have for a baseball diamond in Chestertown invites all three partners to be involved in the long term, in the care and maintenance. In addition to this, in addition to the users of the park, it also invites the town and the county to be active contributors, and I'd be more than happy to discuss that. All right, great. Anything else? General knowledge question. Then I'm going to go right down the list of park by park, and we can talk about each of them. Let's start with the easy ones. Does anyone have any questions or comments about Remembrance Park? Which is Remembrance Park, if you don't know, is the park that was built, finished last year or a year before last. It connects Philosopher's Terrace to Byford Heights. And I'm going to list off all the town parks so you guys are aware of where they are. So if anyone has questions about them, about their status or anything like that, I'm just going to run right through them. So Remembrance Park? No? Awesome.
What does it consist of? I've never even heard of it.
Remembrance Park is a what's called a passive use park. It is a piece of land. It is was formed sort of I don't know if it was swampland, but it was sort of always
It was an old stable site dump.
Yeah, it was an area of town that was always used for mulch and debris pickup and things like that. It is the stretch of. It's not Philosopher's Terrace. Is it Horsey Lane?
Horsey
It is
Lane.
Horsey Lane.
It's right here.
Yeah, that connects from right behind where the Dollar General is, down the hill and down to Queen Street and Byford Heights. It was done largely through grant money. It's replanting, paving, and trees, just done as a passive use connected park. It's not an activity-based park, but it is a town park, so we're going to cover them all. And if I get to tell you about some you don't know about, then that's an awesome part of this meeting. Betty Connolly Park. Does anyone in the room know where Betty Connolly Park is, other than these two? Betty Connolly Park is what's described in it's described in park circles as a pocket park. It is the corner of Cannon Street and Mill Street. It's very small. It abuts the Sultana's shipyard. And it was dedicated to a neighbor and friend of the parks in town, Betty Connolly, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, something like that. It's very small, but it's a pocket park. And it brings us to the idea that one of the things we'd like to explore in our comprehensive plan is the idea of building pocket parks in communities. A park in a community does not have to mean a playground, doesn't have to mean a basketball court. It does mean a dedicated space that's open space, that's green or usable, that neighbors can gather.
I would think about that though a little bit. I mean, I live right next to that little place. Never really see anybody in it. It's a good place to smoke a cigarette.
Right. But
things like that, like what is there to do there? What does happen there?
But
They walk their dogs. Isn't there a dog bag thing there and they walk their dogs?
no, that's down the street. That's the land that you're talking about, sir, is actually down at Kent and Cannon, and that's private land that someone has put a dog bag waste up. I think the town put a dog waste back there, but that's privately owned land. That whole big giant swath, that's private land. The piece of land I'm talking about is smaller than this room. It's actually about the size of this right here, and that's considered a pocket park. We're looking at some. One of our goals is looking at the comp plan is looking at some of the little swaths of land that the town owns around that you can make something into that aren't just vacant lots anymore. And we can get into that as we go. So that's Betty Connolly. Anybody have any questions about that? Are you, and nothing else? You've been edified that the town has a park you didn't know about. Let's talk about Wilmer Park. Anybody have any questions or comments about Wilmer Park? Yes.
Wasn't there a while back some discussion about putting in some sort of recreational space that didn't, landscaping or something like that, where there could be creative use of it and wasn't installing a playground?
So a couple of things that are happening with Wilmer Park. One, as far as landscaping, there was a rain garden installed there. That was 5 years ago? Three years ago. So, and that's the other thing that is the town has received and is working on the details of. There's an Artscape grant that came in, and the details of that's a matching grant at $25,000. So we are currently in the design stages of awarding that design. I haven't been really privy to any more than that, other than the fact that we've received that that grant, but those aren't necessarily recreation facilities. They're more art, landscaping, and interactive educational. And that's for the entire waterfront, not just Wilmer Park. That goes from Stepney all the way down the entire stretch of the waterfront in Chestertown. So it can include the better part of it. It's a arts project that could include the pretty much the better part of downtown, because it's all within the range of service there. So. Yeah.
If I understand correctly, the town is, part of the grant is that the town is going to hold 3 charrettes about the use of that territory.
Exactly.
So that might be something that people that are interested in what happens could show up and get your input in.
Right.
Nothing's been scheduled yet, though.
Right. And that has not been anything that the Rec Commission has been asked to be involved with, and that's not, at this time, as far as we've been involved in our purview, but that's what I can tell you about that. That's the only thing. It was never built as a facility or anything like that. At one point in the community survey that we sent out 2 years ago, we did ask if there'd be any interest in putting a small children's facility there, and it was met with better part of it was met well. It wasn't dismayed. People said, yeah, they would love to have something as a small children's play area in Wilmer Park that did not take over the whole park as a recreation area, but something small to play in there, and within the scale of what would work there. Not making that into the community playground, but having a small piece of equipment there was well met. So, other questions about Wilmer Park?
You said that was met?
It was not met with any resistance. It was met with people like, well, yeah, that sounds like it. As long as it was built within scale. I wouldn't say that the overwhelming majority said they would be in favor of it, but the majority of people said that they would love to have something there, as long as it wasn't the big, community playground that was going to take over the whole park.
I mean, because right now, unless there is some type of function going on there, it's a dog park.
It's extremely passive use.
Which, trust me, that's not bad. That's awesome that people, because if you go there, there's normally 3 or 4 dogs being walked around there. That's fantastic.
And old people.
Oh, so you saw me there.
It's my walking
saying?
place.
It's a great place.
You go around
The trails has really tied into that. It's awesome.
3 times and it's a mile.
So as of right now, the town has no additional plans there. But we're here to take your ideas.
Well, here's an idea, and I'm just saying, rather than take some of the monies that are there, and you've got this place that is being used, that's passive, but it is being used, why wouldn't you consider, and nothing major, I'm just talking like maybe a swing set, something that the mothers or fathers could do the walking around while their kids were playing on the swings, and they could still have a clear view of them. Just something minimal. I think it would attract a couple more people.
One of the suggestions that I had put out when we originally did that survey was town of Betterton at their town hall has a small wooden ship, and they're made locally by the guys over at Stoltzfus. And so that was something that we suggested, was a small enclosed piece of playground equipment. Again, not much bigger than the size of this area right here, but big enough, as you said, so that parents could play on it. It would not take over the whole park. And that's the sort of thing that we want to be able to take your feedback and say, yes, there is a positive view of this. People do want that, because the resistance that we had been given for many years was that people didn't want anything there. They wanted to be open all the time, and they didn't want anything there. So people's opinions change, and their needs change over time. So taking public opinion and public ideas back and saying this is what people are looking for now is an important aspect of that. So if that's something you think is a good idea, that's something we're going to take an involvement in. So, and we'll do a whole design phase as far as what that thing should look like.
Bill,
yes.
Wilmer Park is a designated public landing, and I've always wondered about that. And I live downtown and have no access to the water anywhere.
Right.
Well, there is you can put a canoe in, you just have to walk it over the land.
Right. Well, I have friends who visit by boat, and they do come there, but it is being lost, I think.
There's no good access to
No.
it, right?
Yeah,
And it's
Chestertown for its waterfront, I mean, overall, it has, I mean, it's ridiculous.
Sure. I'm gonna refrain from getting to the waterfront. They're gonna have a whole meeting about that next Tuesday. So we're gonna let everybody launch into that full on next Tuesday. But one of our goals for our comp plan is that we absolutely want to be a part of this waterfront discussion as a recreation facility, make it recreational down there, because that's a huge part of making that what we believe making that a viable solution is making it interactive with people that are just, you know, they're not just boaters, they're not just diners, making people, for the casual people that want to walk there and want to walk their dogs there, but might also want to interact with the water there. Yeah. I'm sorry, what's your name?
Brian. Cool.
Thanks, Brian.
Well, also, I have a notebook I can pass around. I just don't have a pen, so someone's going to have to donate their pen. So everybody will write whoever wants to be on our list, which may or may not be a good thing for you.
Let's do, we did a little bit about Washington Park, but we'll follow up on that now. Other Mr. Cole had some notes about Washington Park we talked about. Are there any other questions or concerns about what we're looking to build there in the Washington Park area, or ideas that you'd like us to convey?
I think maybe we should mention there is talk of a sidewalk. I know this is not Washington Park per se, but I know there's been at least mention of building or a request for a sidewalk on Flatland Road.
Right.
So that's the other.
And if you're in the third ward and you haven't gotten Sam Shogay's phone number and you want to be a part of helping him build a sidewalk, he will take all the backup he can get because he's going to need it. It is a long road to try to get things through State Highway, and he can use every piece of citizen backup he can get. So
It's expensive to connect the rail trail.
Yeah, but we strongly encourage as far as roads. That's not us, but yeah, that is in the works, so it's not out of the realm of possibilities, but that's something that your council people need your support in, writing letters to the state and getting involved. Other questions or comments about the Washington Park project? I went over it a little bit. And again, that will all sort of be contingent on the grant money coming in, and when the grant money comes in, we will go through another phase of design. So just because what I said is what we put in for the grant money. After we engineer that land and we make sure that we don't need to raise it up too high for drainage and things like that, we'll go through with the neighbors again and do a second phase of this is what we can actually build here, not necessarily what we hope to build here based on what the land will actually accommodate. Let's see. Where are we now? Washington Park, Wilmer Park, Remembrance Park. No, great. Let's talk about, well, we're in the third ward, let's talk about Gateway Park. As of right now, the plan is to move forward within the calendar year to break ground there. Again, right now the access to Gateway Park is, from a pedestrian standpoint, is via sidewalk that is in the works to be built contingent on the rotary. As the rotary comes in, the sidewalk is scheduled to come in with it up to that piece of property. And in case if I speak out of turn, just flag me because I'm going from memory. So if I'm yeah.
And everybody knows what Gateway Park is.
Gateway Park is for those that don't know. Mabel Mumford Gateway Park is the piece of land that is located at the end of Route 20 and Flatland Road. It was purchased by the town in 2010 for $385, I think. Thereabouts. Huh? 345. Thanks. I knew it was a 3 and a 5. I couldn't remember the middle. $345,000. Last year we were awarded a grant by Parks and Playgrounds of $155,000 to build a basketball court there, to put in some picnic benches and parking access. That is moving forward this time. The park will have approximately 10 parking spaces, a bicycle rack, a walkway, and a overlooking Radcliffe Creek. Some of the problems that we've encountered at Gateway, are that after engineering was done, some of the land is it's not, I don't want to use the word wetlands because that's not appropriate, but it's environmentally sensitive, so we've had to reconfigure the lay of it a little differently. So it'll look a little different than it was originally planned, but most of the amenities are still intact there. I know that as I've talked to people, I've had all kinds of opinions about it, up or down, left or right, good and bad. So one of the reasons for having this meeting is for people to be able to come out and voice even more of those. So if you have ideas or opinions about this piece of land as it's being developed, that's what we're here to listen to. So anyone have any questions or comments about Gateway Park? Yes, sir.
Same situation, the flatland corridor, there's not
Right.
going to be a sidewalk to it.
Right.
Let me
How do
address,
they propose to let that very large segment of population that is on flatland get to use that safely
Right.
without driving to it?
if I could address that, there are, as Billy mentioned, there are ongoing discussions with SHA. They've done a sidewalk study of Flatland Road, looking at a couple of different options. One is to put only sidewalk up one side, another one is to put sidewalk up two sides. As part of the Gateway Park discussion and as part of phase 3 of the rail trail, we're putting the final touches on a sidewalk plan that will connect the sidewalk that's being built as part of the roundabout right here. The sidewalk will extend on the south side of Upper High Street to, it was intended to initially just stop before the bridge. It's now going to connect and go across the bridge with a depression for the rail trail connection. One of the positive features of putting that roundabout in is that the two northbound lanes on Route 20 are going to be reduced to one. That creates essentially a 10-foot section of the roadway that becomes available for bicycles and for pedestrians to get the access that they need from the rail trail to Gateway Park. Secondly, a developer is now restarting plans to develop the land that's near Laredo. As part of that, they've already, in the concept stage at least, agreed to put sidewalk down the entire west side of Flatland Road, down to the base of Flatland Road. There will be a crossing across the bottom of Flatland Road. And then the town owns a piece of land here. They will build a sidewalk to connect to an SHA crossing that will go more than likely in that location to allow people from Flatland Road to safely cross Flatland and get across Upper High Street to Gateway Park. So there will be a public meeting once all of these issues have been worked out. The wetland issue is fully resolved, so it's a project that's going to happen.
Are we talking a year, 2 years before this is done, or should people be talking now about some of those issues?
The roundabout, the award has been given. SHA has given the award as a project.
That's a done deal.
That's done. The sidewalk is going to be built to the edge of what is right now General Doug Adell's property. That's also we've also got a development proposal for that. That's imminent. The sidewalk connection across here, that has already been agreed to by SHA, and we're waiting from SHA's bridge department to find out what we can or cannot do. We have a couple of options as far as how to get across the bridge. And then we have to work out the crossing details. But we're talking Gateway Park, that funding, it actually has to be built by June. We can extend, but that's the Bikeways grant we should have in hand within a week or two. So we'll commence with that. This development proposal, that's really anyone's guess because it really hasn't come to the planning commission yet.
Didn't
So
you
that's
also
our-
mention a pedestrian light for the crossing? like the college has on 213?
That is up to SHA. So they may or may not choose to make it a lighted crosswalk. It doesn't sound like it will be at this point because we don't have, we in this room would disagree probably with the need for that, but SHA has very specific criteria about when and where you can put a lighted traffic control in for a pedestrian crossing.
And there is going to be another public meeting specifically about Gateway Park with maps that show all of these different aspects in a larger format. It's easier to see, so that's coming up.
Thank you, appreciate it. That's a huge part of it. I think that's been a major concern. I think knowing that that's resolving is going to waylay a lot of people's concerns, but have to actually hear that is sort of a necessary part of them resolving that. And I appreciate that. Other questions or concerns about the Gateway, Mabel Mumford Gateway project?
Yeah. I didn't know about I had heard about, just not kept up on it. I actually am familiar with that corner that he was talking about, and I wasn't familiar. So let me I'm trying to put it in perspective. Washington Park, you're talking about putting a half court or a full court?
Existing right now in Washington Park is a half court.
But you said you're going to move it.
And build another half court.
Build another half court.
Right. And use the existing half court as a handicap parking area.
But strictly because there were balls being lost amongst barbed wire?
For one reason, it's near to the road. There's a couple of reasons it was designed that way. One, because we needed to have a handicap accessible parking area.
Why?
ADA for parks and playgrounds, you need to make it handicap accessible.
Okay, that's Maryland law. Okay. It wasn't enforced before, but now it's
it's a new park.
Okay. So now we're talking about putting another basketball court at the end of Flatland. Right? Am I right? Is there any way to, just for versatility, can we look at doing that instead of just a basketball, to make it a tennis court basketball? So a net could be put up. If you've got a basketball court no more than a quarter mile up the road that is maintained.
Sure.
And I'm just...
That's a great idea.
Just the versatility of it. And then is it going to be a full court basketball down at
Gateway is a full court basketball. Yeah.
So it's a great opportunity to...
Yeah, and a lot of people that install basketball courts do build them multi-use. Yeah, a lot of the outdoor ones are built multi-use. So it's a great idea. It's certainly something that we would try to get involved, see how much the extra cost of that would be. As of right now, that basketball court is entirely fenced in. Is that right? Still, right? So it wouldn't be impossible to envision a tennis court there. The maintenance of running the nets back and forth, I think, becomes a question, but certainly something that's worth exploring. Other notes about Gateway, questions about what sort of things are at the facility, who's going to use it, where you get in. This is your chance to ask questions about it, so go ahead.
Okay, since the original plan was put forth a while back, this overlook has been added to it. I think that's new. I don't know if everybody knows about that.
No, the overlook was in the original plan.
Oh, okay.
Everything about the plan has stayed essentially what it was in the concept that was forwarded with the grant proposal to DNR.
Okay.
Except for the bridge.
Except for the bridge.
So the overlook, and just so everybody knows, you established before it's not navigable, so that you couldn't launch from that area.
That's correct.
Right.
Is it fishable? Just so that people have an idea of what could potentially be done at that park.
I wouldn't doubt that that there might be a couple of little minnows in there, but this is not a lake, a freshwater lake, or a stream that fish come up to spawn.
Right.
So.
It's the other side that you would do that. Back behind the mill is where it gets the water gets a little deeper, right?
So it's primarily scenic.
Yeah, it's an ADA accessible trail with an overlook into what is wetland. Part of the point of the grant is wetland education, environmental education, so the idea would be that you would have that overlook and be able to get up a little bit to look out over an area with wetlands and how do wetlands function, and maybe have a little panel there to explain how that all works.
How high up is the overlook?
Not very high, I think 4 or 5 feet. Maybe.
It's built on a planking, or it's built on a pavement?
Right now, the plan is to make the trail as pervious as possible, so it would probably be crushed stone dust.
Crush and run?
Basically. Not crush and run, but
Okay.
stone dust. That'll compact nicely.
And then the whole, then the landing will be made out of that, or will be built up on top of that?
We haven't actually created a final plan on that yet, and we have to look at the, there's an existing
Lip?
piece of, it almost looks like an old bridge crossing or something, historic bridge crossing, so that's what we're planning to use, and then we have to look at whether the slope of it is sufficient for a person in a wheelchair to get up. So,
And did we mention it's Radcliffe Creek at that?
yeah.
It's on, Radcliffe actually on both sides of that park. Very small on one side, but it's on both sides. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
In this whole
Your name, sir?
Barstow.
Thank you.
In this whole traffic configuration, we talk about walkways, we talk about parking lots. Is there any consideration given to bicycles, kids coming on a bike and being able to cross the road with a bike in an organized way rather than there is?
Absolutely. Yeah, the idea for that connection between the rail trail and Gateway Park is very much it's a combination of pedestrian, cycling, access, and then of course the crosswalk. Just as you would do it in town, if you're on your bike, you would dismount, go through the crosswalk, and then continue on your way if you're cycling up Flatland or down Route 20.
Is this something that State Highway will administer and control?
Yes. Yeah. This is a state road, all the way through town, High Street.
Okay.
So we have striping on High Street, and obviously retrofitting this after the fact, after this being a very industrial area, doesn't make it an ideal cycling place, but it's a lot better than it was, and it'll be improved, I think, between the roundabout and what's going with the park.
Mr. Gatto.
Very appropriate.
Yes, sir.
Does the railroad tracks run through, right by there?
They did historically run behind the grain building.
I thought it did.
To pick up grain when that.
Oh, but that's not, that won't be part of the rails trails.
It is not, no, that easement no longer exists. It's part of that whole Brooks Mill property. Well, this was also Brooks Mill, but.
So like the part running behind the town, the town property, and running behind like Joey's and Auto, and going back up to the park. So that will not be aggregate developed?
No, that's phase 3.
That is being developed.
I'm sorry, you came in a little late.
No, I'm
Brian.
sorry. That's going to be great. That's going to be
Yeah,
awesome.
we have a bikeways grant that will pay for all of that construction, and we're expecting the signed grant within the next week or so.
So that connects from Lynchburg Street around back behind Joey's, behind the funeral home, and back up to and terminates at High Street.
No, it's fantastic. It's literally, I remember having a piece of property on there almost 7 years ago and it being talked about. So it's nice that it's actually finally coming to fruition.
Did you get your question answered?
No.
Sorry.
Okay, so glad to see that you're all working on this. As you know, a major critic of the access points. Two items. One, is there a time frame for SHA, and is there a backup plan if SHA SHA drags their feet on this?
I was in email communication with Larry Gridline just today. As soon as he hears from their bridge department, we'll have the go-ahead to do this. There are a couple of alternatives, and we're just waiting to see which alternative is going to be approved.
And the second item is, although the bridge is extremely expensive at this point in time, the pedestrian bridge, it really changes the dynamics. So I would recommend it go back in as a phase 3, phase 2, whatever, because it really changes the dynamics of that park.
Yeah, a lot of people feel the same way I do, but the issue here is that when the concept plan was sent in, the rail trail on the state GIS layer shows it being much closer to the park than it actually is. It's a difference of about 150 feet, which is a lot when you're talking about bridges. So what was originally thought to be a 50-foot connection turned out to be about 200-foot distance to span through wetland. So you've got not just the bridge expense, but also the permitting issues of getting through wetland, floodplain, floodway, et cetera, et cetera. So it will be, I think it will eventually happen, but...
I think if it shows in the plan, it gets an opportunity to happen. If it doesn't get in the plan, it's forgotten. There are entities that, the timber industry, from time to time has grants for demonstration timber bridges. We did this down in Caroline County, and it worked extremely well, and it's still out there. And this would be an ideal situation for them, because it's exactly what they're looking for. The point is that if it's in the plan, it won't be forgotten.
Thank you. Other questions about Gateway? Concerns? One of the things that, one of my big concerns was that whether it have lights or not. I am told as of right now it will have lights. So, and barring that change, I'm told that there will be a lighted park. It will be a dusk to dawn park, but there'll be security lighting there. As with all Chestertown parks, all of our parks are dusk to dawn parks. Not supposed to be anywhere back there. We're supposed to be back there at midnight anytime. But there should be some security lighting on the premises. That's what I'm told right now. And again, that'll come out in the design when they have when you guys have the full comprehensive meeting and show the plan. Anything else about Gateway? Awesome. Let's talk about Margot Bailey Rolling Road Park. As of right now, the dog park is existing, has access from Morgneck Road, pedestrian access from Rolling Road only. Lots of ideas and options for this piece of land. People have asked all kinds of questions about it. So we're here to hear your feedback on it. Any ideas or concerns about Bailey Park?
Where exactly is it located at?
Bailey Park is located off of Rolling Road behind the middle school. It is a giant...
Behind the middle school?
Yeah.
Here's the middle school field. You can just keep going down Rolling Road.
It is a giant piece of land. 16 acres, I think. 3.5 of which are dog park. Is that right? Is it 19 and 3.5 are dog park?
Effectively, it's about 5 acres dog park.
Yeah. But it's still a massive piece of land available for a lot of uses. The previous comprehensive plan had that listed as built as a full town multi-use facility with a ball field, a soccer field, and a basketball field, and all kinds of things. I am not privy to why that sort of fell by the wayside, but we're here to take your feedback to things that you would like to see go in there. Right now there is a walking trail around the entire park, and there is a dog park, and the dog park has parking for, if you squeeze in there, about 10 cars, if you really got them in there good. People have asked to possibly put a multi-use field there, but anyway, so go ahead.
The entrance on Rolling Road into that, is that area, and there's a house right there, there's a house on either side, is that area that enters in, is that town property?
There's an easement through there.
Is there any way of easing the entrance? It's very rocky. If you're, in my experience, pulling a kid in a wagon or a stroller, it's really difficult to get over that patch. Once you get into the park, it's great, but I wondered if there was something that might ease, you know, instead of driving around to the parking area, ease entrance in and out of that portion.
That was brought up for Mayor and Council January 6th, and your feedback that you think it's important adds fuel to the fire to get that done. So yes, and yes.
It's also not landscaped. I mean, it's ugly.
The entrance is slightly
You
landscaped
can't
now.
really tell.
Just,
Slightly.
you're talking about that whole, the road. They're actually extensions of the roads. That whole development was supposed to be College Heights extended, that whole property. So those roads that go in there are either easements or right-of-way, dedicated right-of-way. Back then, they switched the terms back and forth. But there could be, like Greenwood and certain other roads, could be small entry points into the park with small parking lots, 5, 7 cars with lots of landscaping, because it is a residential neighborhood, and you want to recognize it is a residential neighborhood. So the landscaping should be one of the primary functions of this thing, as well as access to the park. But right now, it's just a drainage ditch, basically.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Suggestions or ideas of what we can put there? Open to you guys. Sky's the limit. It's a big piece of land. Tell me what you want to put there. I'll put a roller coaster there if you tell me to.
Well, I know, soccer has been talked about.
There was also a consideration for a playground, but that's one of those things where it's really, it's not central, it's a long walk for parts of that town.
Okay.
And it's at the Herod Point too.
Yeah, it's also in the least dense populated segment of the town, okay? You've got Cannon Street, which is the most densely populated section of town without any playground. So the least densely populated area has got the biggest open space.
It was the last to develop, so
Yeah,
it's,
and all those houses sit on 10,000 square foot of property versus 2,500 for the Cannon Street. My point is that because the land's available, let's not put all our resources in development there when there's other,
Sure,
and I think that's what you're driving at here.
Right, that's our comp plan view,
Yeah.
but right now we're trying to gather ideas for what we think would be a good thing to go there. Hope.
I just do know that the Latin American community, when they did come to the Diversity Dialogue Group, that was the one thing that they really would appreciate. They have to travel very far to play soccer, and so.
One of the things that we've really looked to do is to try to not just be more diverse, but be a little more open-handed with the communities that we do. Something that parks do is that parks are not just facilities. They're meant to be places where neighbors gather. And they're meant to be places where neighbors that don't know each other gather. That's conceptually or philosophically, they're meant to be a place where you happen to meet people you didn't know and you get to interact with them in a new way. A town without the common ground to do that is a town that is at a loss of place for neighbors to do that. Having worked with a lot of Latin soccer teams, all you have to do is let them know this is the place that's okay to do it. They'll take care of the rest. They'll show up and bring their nets and do it. And then suddenly, where you didn't realize you had a Latin community, suddenly you realize you have an incredibly strong and vocal and excited to be a part of your community and engaged in it by giving accessibility to a piece of land that they know that's safe for them to be on. Same goes for the African American community, same goes for the youth community, any of those groups that don't feel like they have something of their own yet. Once you make it that place, suddenly you find how involved and interactive they want to be with the rest of the community. But the term that I use more often than not is not disenfranchised, but we have a lot of folks in town that are unenfranchised because they haven't found that ground yet. So Bailey Park, in theory, is an excellent place to start to sort of try to build that. So soccer is a big part of one of the things we're building multi-use there. Makes that available to a lot of different groups, and Lord knows we've got land for 3 soccer fields there. We really do. I mean, you could do a full-size, professional grade, and then a kid size, and still have room to spare there. So that's an excellent one. Yes, sir.
And I know there's something out there to work, but I don't know if anybody here has been to the Bigsby sports complex in Centerville. You guys ever heard of it? Anybody? Okay, I have an 8-year-old son, and I have to take him there for the winter for baseball, or my daughter for field hockey, or softball. And then what they did is they put up a freestanding building, and it's inexpensive, when I say inexpensive comparatively, but they have ex-Orioles come in and coach.
In the winter.
When you go there, there's a line of people.
Yeah.
It's a line of people looking for, when I say there's ex-Orioles, but you also have the college coaches from like St. Mary's and, for football. How do you throw, just the young kids working with them on football. Pretty incredible complex, and that's when I say it's still very basic. It's still, when you go in there, prepare, you're going to be cold. It's not like it's all in. Point being is that Chestertown doesn't have anything even close to that. Not saying that Wharton, to be honest with you, besides the pool, I really don't know what that building contains.
That building is a huge gymnasium auditorium, 3 community rooms, a weight room, and Zumba, like a fitness room.
Is there any baseball or football or basketball?
Basketball.
And let me tell you,
there's a ton of basketball out there.
People happily pay.
Sure.
For their kids to get this great coaching, and it's not very long, but there's a line out the door. And it's because it exists, and I guess that's where I was going with it. I don't know what the actual, I just know freestanding buildings and about what they run, but I don't know.
They're not expensive. I mean, they're expensive, but they're not expensive.
They're not cheap, but they're not expensive comparatively. They're not $300 a foot, which I think we paid out to Wharton.
Right. One of the reasons that this commission exists is because we found that there was a need, because people, for 20 or 30 years, things drifted to Wharton. By neglect, by loss of parents, by just the general cycle of people wanting to be involved. And Chestertown has, in my lifetime, gradually said, well, if the county's doing it in Wharton, we don't want to duplicate. The fact is, the town folks are telling us now, and by you guys being here, are telling us now that it's okay if you do it in Wharton, and we don't have to duplicate it, but we should still have it additionally here. One of our big goals as a commission is to make people understand that a third of your town doesn't have access to work by car or by means or by money, so that you need to be able to provide that locally. So Bigsby, and again, I've not been there, but it sounds like it's probably a private endeavor. It's a private company.
Oh, it is. It's an excellent.
And there's a great one in Middletown too that just opened up. That again, line out the door. That's sort of.
And I guess where I was going with that is that it's not just a place that the town would put money into and say good luck. This could actually be a revenue maker for the town.
Right. We have the population. I believe we do. But that's, again, your feedback. And again, I'll go on record because Pete's here and the camera's here. I'm not saying yes or no to any of these things. I'm saying I think it's a good idea. I agree with you.
Just ideas.
Yeah. And that's what we're here to do is basically gather ideas, information. So
I have to leave, but I wanted just to say I'm 3 doors down from Bailey Park, so I have a lot of feelings about it. But one of them is, I'm not quite sure exactly what I would like there, but what I do know is that I think we need to have a plan before things start popping up randomly, and there's no rhyme or reason. The dog park, I have my concerns about it because to me it's a symptom of a lack of planning. It was the loudest person who had the most energy around it decided that's what was going to be put in there. Possibly there was some support, but gosh, there's just, to me it seems like that is the one place that needs the most thought and planning. And maybe it's not this year or next year where we start building things, but we at least need to know where we're going, especially with that property, because it's so easy to say, well, we'll throw a few different things in, there's plenty of room. Eventually we're going to run out of room and we're not going to be serving a large part of the population. So I just wanted to say that about that property.
Awesome.
But I have to go.
Good point.
Thank you, John.
Thank you for
Should be a master plan.
Right.
Develop a master plan which can be reconfigured as you go along and the current chart the events then.
Right.
But there may be a starting plan. And I think part of, whenever I think of parks, and because I think what sorely, I travel a lot and spend a lot of time in Europe, and when I visit and take a walk, I usually walk in forest. I walk in forest area. We don't have any area to go and take your dog, into the woods and so. And I would recommend that also here, perhaps some landscaping in terms of tree planting, etc., would be considered as part of this plan.
Mark, do you know that we just planted $32,000 worth of trees?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right.
But
There's a lot of trees.
Super. Okay.
It's a lot of trees, but having gone to Europe the same way, especially Germany, there is a full set of interconnected walkways with woods, trees, and it's not just landscape trees, but it's something we might be able to accomplish behind Coventry and extending the rails to trails up through Coventry, because it would have that same type of effect.
Right, great.
That is in the comprehensive plan, by the way.
Okay, other ideas for Bailey Park or anything like that? Yes, sir.
Ernie Moore. I just wanted to comment that the production or planting of trees that went this a month ago was just extraordinary. A good variety of trees planted with imagination around the perimeter walkway. And I think it's
And you had a suggestion you brought to me a week ago, if you wouldn't mind sharing it here.
I have a particular enthusiasm for adding bluebird nesting boxes to that area. And my bluebird interest doesn't interfere with the ideas of having soccer or other activities. They wouldn't be on top of each other. The nest boxes would be where the trees are.
Right.
And presumably athletic fields would be somewhere else.
We have 3 bluebird boxes that were donated by Gibson Anthony. His sons made them, and we're going to put them in. And I'm happy to report that bluebirds are there right at this moment.
I've seen trees floating around. Where is my house?
Between the park and Heron Point.
And I think the people at Heron Point, which includes me, are right next door to that park, and we're very interested in what will happen and would like to be kept informed one way or another.
Absolutely. That's, again, why we're here. I'm going to skip through Bailey Park if everybody's okay with that. Anybody else have any notes? Because we want to keep pressing forward. What did I miss? Gateway, Bailey, Washington, Wilmer. I don't really want to get into Fountain Memorial Park too much. I think everybody sort of knows what they are and what their use is. Recreation Commission isn't going to get really into what goes on there other than some programming, and that the grounds are upkept is a whole different thing. And there's a major project that's going to happen there in the next 3 months anyway, right? The resodding and relaunching. So that's the Garden Club usually deals with that for the most part. We're not going to change what's there. It's sort of existing, and we're not going to do any additional programming there beyond what we're doing. So if we have programming ideas, we'll consider them for there. But
We haven't mentioned Ajax.
right. That's an excellent call. Jimmy had something before I do that.
When you go before the Planning Commission, one of the things, the Planning Commission has to rewrite the subdivision regulations. There's nothing in our current subdivision regulations that require developers to set a certain parcel of land aside for recreation. And you might explore, Queen Anne's County's had that in there for about 40 years. 10% of the land has to be set aside for recreation. That might be something we want to take a look at, either in terms of hard land or in terms of financial contribution.
Right. And you're right, absolutely right.
It would be nice coming from you guys because it gives the Planning Commission something to cover their back.
Right. Excellent point. I wasn't not going to talk about Ajax, but as a town piece of land, we should address it. For those that don't know, Ajax is the town's current basketball court. It is located on Cross Street behind Cannon. Was built in the late 70s, early 80s. Used to be a full court basketball court. Not many years ago, the town made an offer on a piece of land and it was sold off. It's currently a half-court basketball court. I will publicly express my disdain for its maintenance and upkeep. When I brought the county parks and rec people around and showed them town facilities, the people that run Wharton, I took them back there and they said, I can't believe that this is a municipally owned piece of land. It is in, again, I'll go on record, it's in abysmal condition. And it's been neglected, and it is, the town should be ashamed that that's their land. I'll say that and say no more about it, but as of right now, the town has no current plans to do anything with that land. So I will let that go to you to let you guys say what your suggestions are and what your opinions of that are. Anyway, so Ajax is located, if you don't know where it is back on Cannon Street, right behind the Tide Road Trader building. There's currently, since the land was subdivided, the full court that was there is now a half court. So that's one of the reasons for the impetus of Gateway Park was to build a full court somewhere, because the town does not feel that the land is large enough back there to expand to a full court there. So that's the status of Ajax right now. As far as I know, no one has approached me about any different. So.
Well, I just wonder why that is, because when we brought it up a while ago, the mayor at the time said, oh yes, of course, we should do something. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why that didn't happen. I mean, that was her comment.
That's correct.
So does that mean that we need to bring it up to the mayor again presently, or is it the responsibility of the Recreation Commission to?
It is certainly the responsibility of the Recreation Commission to address that, yes. And we have been. So
we're, and I know, don't put you on record.
I'll go on record.
Okay. So what's the holdup? And can I ask this question? Who did the other half of the land get sold to?
Half of the land was sold to a private business holder that is located in that parking area, that owns the adjacent property. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you why no one was consulted, no one was asked. Because that's the answer that I've been given, is that the person made an offer on the land and it was a good offer. That's the answer that I've been told.
Well, if it was that good of an offer, they couldn't.
Again, that's the limit of my knowledge on it. As far as why it hasn't been pushed, again, that's something that we as the Recreation Commission are willing to take the town to task on. One of the things I was asked by Mayor and Council, and again, I'll go on record saying this, is that I was asked by Mayor and Council to make sure that this wasn't the Bill Arrowwood show, and that I wasn't pushing my own agenda. Because I'm very opinionated about this stuff, and my team is very opinionated about this stuff. But that it wasn't something that we were being squeaky wheels about because we thought it was important, because we thought it was important to be squeaky wheels. They asked specifically that I come and get feedback and get, a broader group of people to say this is a concern. So me telling, or the Rec Commission telling them that this is a problem, isn't enough. We're here to be your voices.
I'm sorry.
I hope you don't have to wave your arm. I'm going to call in when I'm finished my sentence. So. Go ahead.
I just am addressing the question I think this gentleman asked, and bringing up the history that does exist, which is when it was brought up, John Munson, who is present, was asked to do quite a bit of work downtown and did quite a bit of work. John, do you want to speak up? I mean, I just think it's important to mention that it didn't go to nothing.
No.
There was interaction, there was questioning. John and I did sit with that business owner. We did engage with the community. It just, didn't have any weight, I guess. I guess I'm asking, what happened to that work? I mean, we did do some work, and so maybe it's just a matter of connecting that work to the now vitalized Recreation Commission, which, you know, we're here to facilitate as a community.
Sure.
Well, it's like Jim said, he said a minute ago, he made a statement, he said, you know, the developers should be asked to contribute something because they're developing. And one of the things that we need to look at also is that people coming in to develop these properties or work on anything around Chestertown, we got to make it, we should also make sure that we're inviting to them, not just you need to pay more. And the people that are in town that have been here for a long time, that have made money in this town, you know, is it a horrible thing to ask them?
Right.
And that's, you know, that's as nicely, I mean, I'm trying to say this, we just got to, it's a fine line, and I don't know the line, which line, but there is a, you have to make sure that we are working on some growth, which decorating the town with nice places to come and have kids to go is a great thing, because it hadn't happened in a long time. In order to do that, it has to be inviting also for people with money to come here and do things. And we just got to be careful of that also.
Yeah. Can I answer that a little bit?
I will let you answer that, but let me say this, is that when we sent out the survey, the public survey in spring of 11-12, I think it was 11 or 12, it's all a blur. One of the questions was, would you be willing to contribute towards a fund to help recreational facilities and programming in Chestertown? Overwhelmingly, 80% of people said at least something. A lot, a little, some. 80% said something. You know, only like 6% said, no, we shouldn't do that. So you're absolutely right. People here are not only do we need to entice the developer and the business people to want to be involved, because it's a great thing, it's positive to be involved, but the numbers met out that people are willing to. You know, you just have to ask them and show them the project. You can't just say, throw it into a fund, but you say, this is the project we're building. They're willing to contribute in that way. So we are there for that. And that's one of the reasons we want to do this, is because we want to find the projects that we want to do that with. Jim, and then Carol. Jim, and then Carol.
Okay, you're absolutely correct. We've got to, you get more with carrots than you do with vinegar, okay?
Absolutely.
And it's not only collecting money, it's when you collect it from a developer. If you collect it up front before and he has to finance it, it's an extra cost. And if you collect it later down the pike, but I think we have to put incentives for developers, but at the same time, what Bill has said is, they know it's going to be a positive. They'll make it part of their positive development. Like if they do recreation, they'll incorporate it into their plan from day one and sell it as part of their plan. Coventry did this with the square, the green square and the open space they had. Unfortunately, the planning commission, I was head of the planning commission at the time, relied on the developer's good faith to develop it. He put some grass seed down and walked. Okay? That won't happen again, or should happen again. It should be a fully developed green space, whatever he ended up in, because to have homeowners take on that extra cost is too heavily done. But you cannot simply put restrictions and cost on a developer and expect them to meet it if the marketplace isn't there. And right now it's not there.
Cool.
I'm sorry.
Carol?
Well, I completely agree with that, but I would just like to say to everyone that it would be a really good idea to get in your car and drive around and look at all of these parks. It really makes a difference when you see the land.
We have a lot, and if anyone's interested and doesn't know where they are, I would be more than happy to take you on a nickel tour. I've done it several times, and I enjoy it. So if you're not sure where something is, you can reach me, and I'll gladly ride you around. John, do you have anything you want to say about Ajax, historically or anything like that? I know that it's very frustrating for you. It's frustrating for me. It's one of the reasons that we sort of started to push back and start getting into these things. I know that I didn't get very far with trying to get into that particular property with the former mayor and council. I don't know how this new one will be. But I know it's something we can certainly readdress, so.
I don't feel like it was a waste of, this was birthed out of that movement, you know, so it definitely wasn't a waste. You know, I'm going to work with the town and majority. What I believe did happen was the one owner that bought the property that kind of slowed that process up. You know, but we're looking forward to the future. You got a good thing in more locations. Ajax is not the ideal location. It would be for me and for some people that I do know, but we'll compromise and need to know. We just want a basketball court and some recreation for the children.
Where would the best place be?
Now I'm not in the loop. I was late for the meeting.
Well, just knowing Chestertown off the top of your head.
I would have to say Ajax for a basketball court, but on a grander scale, like this big field here, that would like be great with soccer and baseball and.
Yeah, the one thing about Ajax, and this is a concern that is that it doesn't have enough room to expand it any bigger than what it is. You could, in theory, squeeze a full court back in there, but you're squeezing it in right at the limits if you're doing that.
Isn't there a bit of land?
A bit,
across?
a bit, but you're still not building a full-size court there. You could build a full-size court with 2 nets, but you're right on the edge of the land. There are other parcels that are worth exploring for basketball, for baseball, for other things. Your suggestions are what we're looking for there. Like I said, our committee has a lot of ideas, and we look at a piece of land and we think of something. But ultimately, we want to present to the town the best possible use for each piece of land. Rather than getting a piece of land and then finding a use for it, we want to go start looking at lands that we may not own or that we should own, because we know it's the best location for this kind of facility. But yeah, I mean, ideally, for the traditional value for people that have used it for 2 generations, a basketball court downtown is ideal. Making it a full facility that you can really expand into and make into something bigger. There, maybe not that piece of land, but land nearby it might be just as good. And you're still in that vicinity, which is some of the stuff we're looking at. Whether we'll get a second basketball court down the road, I don't know. But as of right now, Gateway is our best option, because that's what's on the table. Hope.
I just don't see why you can't at least make it something that you don't, feel embarrassed about, or the way you describe it as being, whatever.
I think that would be a great start.
Yeah.
If you're gonna leave it there, and that's what's gonna be there.
There's still kids that play it.
Play
there.
Yeah, and again, I encourage anyone who hasn't been down there a while, go take a look. It's in need of some help, and the help it would take wouldn't take much, but it would be a start. All right, I'm going to move through that real quick because we've spent a lot of time talking about facilities. I'd like to talk for a few minutes about programming, about your ideas for programming, get your feedback on the stuff we did last year, and see if you have any ideas for things we might add this year you think would be a great idea to add. Again, funding and bodies aside, these are ideas. So anyone have any suggestions for things they'd like to see programming-wise in town, for kids, for adults, for whatever you got?
I love the idea of wiffle ball.
Okay. That's 2 for wiffle ball.
I think that's, it's low environmental impact. You can just gather at a green space in the various neighborhoods. You don't really have to build anything.
No. One of Brant's great ideas for wiffle ball, because it's such a portable game, was that it could really become a genuine neighborhood game. You could gather a team from Coventry to play a team from Washington Park. You could gather a team from College Heights to play a team from Byford Heights, and actually, play in those neighborhoods. But you have a clutch of people from that community you could do that with, and really you get a chance to have people from. I know Byford Heights and College Heights barely talk to each other, but there's a lot of people out there that would be nice if they had a reason to. Tim mentioned, and anyone that's been in the park knows well, there's very little interaction between Coventry Farms and Washington Park, and they share a set of woods behind them, and they're just rubbing up against each other all the time. Creating programming means that people do it, sort of without knowing they're doing it. is good for the town. And that's one of the things, that's one of the reasons we like bocce so much, although bocce was a very specific, it was sort of, ended up being a very specific clientele, or people who were in it, it still got people that didn't know each other interacting. And we want to continue to find other programming ideas that do that. So your suggestions to do that are where we're going to get those, because otherwise we're playing wiffle ball, which is fine. Yeah.
I was just going to say, you're doing the family game night with board games and whatnot. What about doing something in the spring and summer?
We'd love to.
Doing wiffle ball outside,
Yeah.
here, and
Right. Expand family game night to being family outdoor night. It's a great idea.
One other thing I would add to the game night concept is, and I've said this before about, in my opinion, the reason why the bocce league has been a success is because
there's alcohol involved.
It was a ground up initiative. There was sort of a citizen who championed the notion, ran with it, and sort of helped ensure that it was successful. And the game night has been sort of attended in and out, which it's intended as a drop-in program. But if we ever wanted to become a thing, we would need somebody in a similar role to say, 3 weeks from now, Yahtzee tournament, something like that. Now you have a thing. Now you have 30 built-in people.
Right.
Well, the other thing with bocce, expand the age gap. You could have teenagers to 80-year-olds.
Right.
And there are a lot of sports that do that. There are a lot of adult rec sports.
Because a lot of our friends participated in it, and they run the gamut in age.
Oh yeah, we had from 25 to 75, which is a big gap when you're talking about a recreational event.
You talk about activities.
Yeah.
Something to go along with our fireworks display. Something in the daytime and the evening, so the town can be brought into an event. People in town can come. The old town picnic, back in the 1900s or something. We can't get that far along, but something that would bring the people to the waterfront prior to the fireworks, and then they could just stay at the waterfront.
But do it right up before, because I know DCA does.
It could turn into a money-making.
DCA does their Americana in the Park, but that ends at 3 o'clock, and so people do it. So the idea of doing something that
you have a bocce tournament there.
But something that starts at 6 o'clock and goes until dark.
Idea.
Yeah, great. Anything else? Any other ideas for programming? Suggestions? I've had people ask me to start the church league, basketball league again. I would love to do that. I need coaches. If you give me 5 coaches, I'll get you a church league basketball league. But I need the manpower. That's another reason we're here.
Where do we play?
If you got me 5 coaches, I'd find you a place to play.
Yeah, but I'm not.
In theory, you would play at the middle school or at the elementary school in town, because that's the best place to do it.
In the winter.
In the winter.
In town.
You do Saturdays at the middle school are available right now.
Is it church league?
We used to have church league basketball, which was a local league in town. It was countywide, but church league basketball was, for the better part of 3 generations, run out of the local churches, but not necessarily dedicated. You didn't have to go to the churches, but you usually had 2 or 3 that were in the youth group. But usually had 2 or 3 kids from each team that were at the church, and you got a dad or a mom that was the coach from that church, and that's how you sort of had a team. And then you filled out the rest of the team for there. But like if you lived in Fairleigh, you played on the Fairleigh church league team because they only had one. Right. If you lived in there were several in town so you had a sense of people coming in and playing like that. And right now, Parks and Rec does run middle school age basketball at the middle school. The Hoyas run a basketball program. Work in Progress runs a basketball program. So there's a lot of people doing basketball. Church league is a little more casual. It's a little more recreational. And then the other thing people have asked me to do is to get an adult basketball league. And with the advent of Gateway, we may see the availability of that. Be able to run an adult basketball league and tournaments in the summertime.
We did church league volleyball, and that was very successful.
I go on Wednesday nights. My son takes karate, and I go on Wednesday nights, and I only got an hour, but they play for 3 at the Canton Athletic Center. That's a huge, and I'll tell you where I'm poking around. I'll let you run with this, but that would be if you could get something going there on a Thursday night or Friday night or Saturday night with the basketball. It's a full court, indoor, has an overlook, has the side, and like right now with the volleyball, and I found out about it through stumbling across it, taking my son, but it's a pickup.
Right.
game.
It's a drop in.
We have 3 teams.
3 nights a week. There's a floor hockey league that plays there. There's volleyball, and then all day Saturdays dedicated to indoor soccer.
But the guy, I'll tell you, was sitting there watching on Monday night, I go there, and there's normally about 5 guys that show up, and they'll go in, and they show up just about at the same time, every night, and they'll go in and they'll play for about a half an hour, and then they leave, and then there'll be a couple more show up. But I guess what I'm saying is that there is some sporadically happening there, but something like that.
It's private, but it's even the private sector sources we need to think of as part of our recreation inventory.
Well, I mean, and just remember that though it is private, remember he's also, when I say that the business also is a big, if it's not, I think it's number 2 or number 3 in the county of employers. They're the 3rd employer of the county.
Right.
So they own that facility.
Right.
So if there was, through you guys, if there was some type,
Reaching in saying, hey, what night do you have open?
just
You
saying.
know, we want your facility, what night's open? That's not,
Or a reduced cost.
Right.
So right now, I think I pay $6 for the 3 hours.
Right.
I only play for the hour, but
Right. That's $6 a week.
But
the thing is, like you said, you stumbled upon that. If that was general knowledge, people knew that, because $6 isn't much money, even as making it a private thing. Not every drop-in has to be free.
it'd be $3.
Right.
$3 is, all I'm saying is, like you said, if there's a night, Monday night, there's only 5 people that are there.
Right.
There were 10 people that are 5, and then another. I was just making a statement, not trying to push that, but I'm sure with everything he's doing in the county, he might, not knowing about it, might say, hey, that's a great idea.
Sure.
And I think actually he's part of the group that is, when I say he, is there's somebody representing that company that's going to be meeting on the 10th.
Oh, no doubt.
That might be able to, he's just ideas.
That's great, thank you. Other ideas for programming or other ideas for recreation in general for 2014 and beyond? Anything else you guys would like to see us spearhead or work on or go out and make happen for you? And if you don't have them now, not everybody has the idea right now, sometimes they'll come to you late. You can email me or you can reach out to me anytime. The rec league has a Facebook page if you're so inclined. If you're not so inclined, you can email us at chestertownrec@yahoo, super easy. Or you can just find me. I'm pretty easy to talk to about this stuff. Yes?
Would this be a good time to say that I would like to see all the parks smoke-free?
You can certainly ask. I think it's certainly worth putting on the books. Yeah.
I have a little question.
Yes, John.
This is just a proposal that we're getting together for the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it is.
Well, this is just a report. We're going to turn this in and let them know what the public, what this is a public opinion forum, so just let them know what's going on. Other than this being we're going to meet monthly. This is an open meeting. Other meetings we're going to be doing business that people are welcome to sit and listen to, but this is the one where if you got something to say, you want to get off your chest, we're asking people to get it out now so that we know where we want to go in the next year. Again, our goal is not to be 7 people driving a boat for 5,000. Our goal is to be a steering column that everybody gets a hand at the wheel. So, yes, Hope.
I guess if you were at the moment now, my suggestion is that if you do decide to focus on certain areas for certain funding, that that there is a particular outreach facilitated process for that.
Sure. And our goal is to do it, anything we do for the next process for any grants, we'll do the same process we did with Washington Park, where we'll invite the people that are surrounded by it in. It's not going to be in every, not every neighborhood's going to have the response that Washington Park did, but we'll definitely do community outreach in every single neighborhood we go to. We'll go ward by ward. One of the projects that I have, as a pet project that I've looked at, there's a piece of land in the, again, a lot of work's in the 3rd Ward right now, but the land's there. There's a piece of land that the town owns that is behind Calvert Street, behind Lynchburg Prospect and Calvert Street and College Street. There's a nice little piece of land back there that I will propose in the next year that we explore to make a pocket park. It's already town owned. It's about an acre. It's just big enough that you can make something out of it. Right now it's a vacant lot. So it's those sort of looking at pieces of land saying, well, is this a good piece of land to do this with? And when we do that, we'll get into that with that neighborhood and see if that's what they want.
Yeah, that just makes me think of a piece of land that's right, John, next to your mall. It's Calvert and College, right on the corner.
Yeah, that's a piece of land.
Is that, who is owned, does anybody know who owns that?
Yeah, I know who owns it.
That's private, but the land back behind the horseshoe is town land.
Because I guess I don't know if this is Parks and Recreation, but it is kind of outdoor activity, doing community gardening.
Yeah, that's definitely on our list. If we had a citizen champion for that, we would make that work. So.
They normally have church functions there on that corner for fish fries and what have you.
Yeah, right on the corner, right?
Yeah, right on the corner.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's permitted to build anything there at all.
No, but do you know the piece of land I'm talking about that's back in the it was originally 30 years ago there were going to be more townhomes there. But there's nothing for town. So that's the thing that looking at those little slices of land that the town has or that maybe the town doesn't own yet. If you guys see a piece of open land and say, well, that'd be a great location for this. Why isn't that there? Or hey, I just drove by such and such. And I think that's private, but why wouldn't we approach them about maybe doing this here? That's the kind of feedback we're looking for. It's your eyes that make the job better. Now, not all your ideas are going to be good. Some of mine are terrible. But they're ideas that I will take back to the group and we'll try to work them out. So if you see something and you have a thing that you think, oh, I could do that there. We want to build a bocce court somewhere. Still, we were trying to find good land for a bocce court, make it ideal so it's tractable, permanent court. It's finding that land that's the right place for that. And looking at the long term saying, well, in 10 years, is this still the best piece of land for that, or is there a better option? So that's what we're looking for from you guys, is to look out in the world of Chestertown and say, is this the right, is this a good spot? Well, why couldn't we do that? Our goal as a commission is to not say no to you. It's to say we'll try and look into it. We're going to say to you, why not? If you say why not, we'll say, well, we'll find out why not. But we'll find out if it's the right thing. At least we'll do that without being defeatist about it. Logistically, some of it may be difficult, but we will definitely find out the logistics of why it will work and why it won't work, and let you know that. And land is difficult and hard to find and hard to work with, but we'll do what we can with that. I will wrap up by saying Family Game Night continues this Friday night at the library. We're going to start early this week at 5 o'clock. And have a board building, family game building project done by the folks at the library. We'll be meeting inside the library in the main meeting room, not in the yellow building, but out back. And that program will go on through February. And then, Carrie, maybe we'll start thinking of things we can do, a big family game night, and do it out, in a piece of land. Say, well, say, hey, every Friday night now we're going to do, kickball night for families, and or have a family dodgeball night, which could turn ugly if you get the wrong people involved. With that, any other final comments or questions, Brian?
Well, you said something about it, and I wasn't sure if you said not this meeting, but the waterfront. Didn't the town buy a piece of waterfront property? The town
why I said not this meeting is because next Tuesday, The Waterfront Committee report has been released to the public. It's online, it's available. The town is asking for public feedback specifically on the uses of the waterfront. Whatever you got to say about it, we encourage you to read that report before you come in, because there's a ton of ideas in there that people need to sort of, it's good to do the legwork to know, if you're going to suggest something that's already in there, it's good to know it's in there. It is 44 pages long. The town has an abbreviated 12-page version available on its website, so if you want just the bullet points, you can get through that. But we're encouraging people to come back to that meeting and do the waterfront. So.
Somebody spent a lot of time and effort.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for coming. If you're interested, I will send you guys emails about our next meeting, and then be in touch. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, guys.